A few years ago, I resided in a two-bedroom rented townhome with my mother and our loyal German Shepherd. One evening, after returning from work, I went about my usual routine. When dinner time arrived, I knocked on my mom's bedroom door to invite her to join me. To my surprise, I detected the scent of cigarette smoke and heard her respond with a grunt. I retreated to the dining area, deciding to save a plate for her. Fast forward to around 2 a.m., I was abruptly awakened by someone gently holding my hand and shaking it. My immediate reaction was to sit up and scan the room. Strangely, my usually protective dog, who typically slept with me every night, was nowhere to be found in my bed. She had definitely been there when I went to sleep. I slept with the bedroom door securely shut and locked, but my dog was scratching frantically at the closed and locked door from the hallway. Concerned, I rushed to the door, let her in, and watched as she anxiously searched the entire room. Meanwhile, I called out for my mother, but received no response. Driven by worry, I compelled my dog to accompany me down the hallway, still detecting the lingering odor of cigarette smoke. I pounded on my mom's bedroom door, but there was no answer. In my state of growing anxiety, I decided to open the door, only to discover that she wasn't even home. Her bed was neatly made, and her television was turned off. Both my dog and I conducted a thorough search of the entire house, but everything appeared to be in its proper place, and all doors and windows remained securely locked. To say I was deeply unsettled would be an understatement. The following day, I contacted my mother, who revealed that she had left early the previous day to visit my ailing grandfather, providing a puzzling explanation for the bizarre events of that night. During my high school days, I had a penchant for exploring abandoned buildings, and one particular adventure stood out from the rest. A friend and I decided it would be an exciting idea to investigate a long-forgotten farmstead that had been left and used for many years. The entire experience turned out to be quite surreal. The farmstead was situated at the end of a lengthy gravel road, leading us to a collection of decrepit structures surrounding a central barn. To ensure a quick exit, we parked our car near the gravel road's terminus, close to the main road. Our plan was to explore the property briefly and then make a swift departure. Our initial destination was the barn itself, and upon entering, we stumbled upon an eerie sight. There were deer bones carefully arranged in a circle around a skull, and a collection of blankets and wood piled up in one corner of the room. This bizarre scene struck us as rather cult-like and unsettling, prompting us to make a hasty retreat. As we were halfway down the gravel road, we suddenly heard the ominous sound of crunching, heavy footsteps and blood-curdling screeches coming from behind us. Fear gripped us as we broke into a sprint, heading back to my car with adrenaline pumping through our veins. Desperate to escape, I tried to accelerate away from the scene, but a layer of melted snow from the previous night had left my back tire stuck in a puddle. My friend, overwhelmed by fear, was screaming, refusing to turn around and look back at the source of the terrifying noise. It was only after I managed to free the car from the snow that she finally turned to see if someone was pursuing us. But to our astonishment, there was no one in sight. While it could have been a bird or some other harmless explanation, both of us maintain to this day that someone or something had been trailing us. That day, I genuinely believed I might not make it out alive. Still to this day, I find this creepy and strangely comforting. This story was relayed to me by my grandmother, a pragmatic and no-nonsense woman. I hold every word of it in genuine belief. My grandmother had a neighbor and close friend who had suffered a tragic loss in her youth, nearly 4 decades ago. Her husband had passed away suddenly, succumbing to a heart attack or some similarly abrupt ailment. This woman found herself deeply distressed because, for a couple of years following his demise, she couldn't conjure a single dream involving her late husband. Strangely, this absence of dreams troubled her deeply, as if she longed for the solace they might bring. Then, after some time had elapsed, and she was preparing to sell her home in order to relocate closer to her children in another state, something remarkable happened. Her wish was granted, and she began to dream once more, with her husband making appearances in these dreams. She had multiple such dreams, and in each one, her husband would awaken her, take a seat on the bed, and attempt to communicate with her. However, his speech was utterly horrifying. It was described to me as being backwards or garbled, reminiscent of the way characters speak in the Black Lodge on Twin Peaks. It was thoroughly unsettling, and she couldn't decipher a single word. A few days prior to her scheduled departure from the house, she drifted into slumber and encountered her husband once again in a dream. The dream unfolded as before, but this time she managed to grasp and understand a single word he uttered. He grasped her in the dream and repeatedly exclaimed, "Rafters," his tone filled with apparent panic. She awoke, shaken but compelled by the dream's message. Returning to sleep, she couldn't shake the haunting encounter from her thoughts. The following day, while completing her packing in the basement, she gazed upward and noticed the rafters above her. Recollection of the dream surged within her, and she felt an irresistible urge to reach into the rafters. Upon doing so, she unearthed a hidden cache of World War II bonds, a discovery worth thousands of dollars. Astonishingly, her late husband had purchased these bonds without her knowledge, and he had never disclosed their existence to her. It was as if he had returned in her dream to convey this secret, ensuring that she wouldn't leave behind this valuable treasure when selling the house. To this day, the story continues to give me chills. This happened sometime between 2001 and 2003 in Morgantown, Indiana, at a place known as Auntie M's Tea Room, which regrettably no longer exists. On 3 distinct occasions while performing closing duties, I experienced something quite unsettling. I heard what appeared to be the faint cries of a small child. Each time I attempted to approach the sound, it seemed to recede, moving to different parts of the restaurant or growing fainter altogether. It was an eerie and disconcerting experience, to say the least. I had a friend who worked alongside me at the restaurant, and on one occasion, after we had closed up for the night, something unusual occurred. She heard what she thought was my voice calling her name from within the stockroom, while simultaneously, I heard my name being called from the front of the restaurant. Both of us rushed to respond to what we believed were each other's calls, only to discover that neither of us had actually called out. This left us both thoroughly perplexed. The most chilling part of my time at Auntie M's, however, was the fact that 2 individuals I knew passed away shortly after dining there, and I had served them their final meals on both occasions. One person met with a tragic accident, while the other succumbed to a heart attack. It was, in all likelihood, simply their time to depart from this world, but the unsettling part remains that I unknowingly served 2 different people their last meals on Earth within the confines of that restaurant. I've personally had a highly unusual experience, and I'm uncertain whether to attribute it to the vivid imagination of my 12-year-old self at the time or consider the possibility of something paranormal. My dearest childhood friend used to reside in a house that was essentially the fusion of 2 ancient homes. During my very first overnight stay at his place, he recounted a chilling tale to me. He spoke of a woman who had once lived in one of these houses and tragically lost her sanity, resulting in the horrifying act of drowning her own children in a basin located at the rear of the house. This unsettling narrative set the stage for what was to come. Around 3:30 a.m., I awoke in the middle of the night, consumed by a thirst for water. As I emerged from his bedroom and passed by the staircase leading to the 2nd floor on my right, I proceeded to the kitchen. However, upon my return journey to his room, I inexplicably froze at the base of the staircase. Until that moment, I hadn't paid much attention to the stairs, rushing back to his room without a second thought. Curiosity got the better of me, and I turned my head to gaze at the staircase. To my bewilderment, instead of the familiar ascent to the second floor, I beheld a set of stairs descending at a sharp and unnatural angle into what appeared to be a void of utter darkness. It was as if I had entered another dimension. I remained rooted in place for what felt like an eternity, fixated on this enigmatic abyss that had inexplicably materialized before my eyes. Strangely, my mind failed to register the strangeness of the situation. Then, the eerie occurrence took a spine-chilling turn. An ear-piercing scream, so intense that it seemed to emanate from inside my own head, shattered the silence, a woman's voice shrieking "No!" with a startling force. Needless to say, I sprinted back to my friend's room in sheer panic, and I've seldom discussed this experience since it unfolded. What's perplexing is that, despite the passage of many years and the fading of countless memories, I can recall this incident as vividly as if it had transpired just yesterday, despite potentially forgetting more significant events in the interim.